All right, now we get to our conversation of the day where we are talking about regenerative kind of tourism. And joining us is Nick Aduda, who is the CEO of Dudu's Safaris. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right, now, when you talk about tourism, of course, when someone is going to visit, for example, you come from Nairobi, you're going to visit maybe Masai Mara, you're going to visit maybe a different country in Rwanda. You don't usually necessarily go in search of maybe going to plant a tree or going to just make the environment better. So how did this idea even come about?
Okay, so I would say the concept of regenerative tourism is a concept where we give more to the environment than we take. Because like as a travel company, we are basically an extractive company. Because like we live off the environment. Without the environment, we have nothing. Mm-hmm. For us to be a progressive company, that's why we lean towards regenerative tourism. Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. And now, when you look at regenerative tourism, kind of tourism, which market is really that brings in a lot of profit, especially when it comes to tourists making sure that they are coming to Kenya, and basically the thing that they're going to do while they're touring will be environmental conservation. So when you look at the global market, which is your most which country is the most where you find where tourists come from?
Like I can say like the Western market, mm-hmm. in particular the US, people are very much conscious of the carbon footprint. So like what we try to do as a travel company, we partner a lot with like youth groups. Like mm-hmm. for instance, I can tell you like the Baso Creek community. You find like mangroves, sorry, to mm-hmm. my speech. Mm-hmm. Mangroves sequester more carbon than a natural rainforest. Mm-hmm. So you find like these groups, they have a tree nurseries. That's why we try to work with them the most.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And in working with the youths, what are some of the challenges, especially when it comes to environmental conservation? Because, of course, a young person, when they are going to visit somewhere, that is not the first thing they think about. They would want to think about, where am I going to get a drink? Where am I going to get the best music? Where am I going to get the best place just to hang out? So when you're working with the youths, what do you focus on in order for you to just rope them in and bring them in and involve them in this?
Okay, that's a very good question. I can tell you for sure as a company, like all of our products, all of our itineraries involve locations where you get to practice regenerative tourism. Mm-hmm. Like for instance, in Naivasha, at Crescent Island, the first thing all our guests do is to plant a tree.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then like when you go to Watamu, as mentioned earlier, what we do is like we partner with like the Turtle Bay Watch. Like turtles are some of the most, they face the threat of extinction. Mm-hmm. That's why like we try to partner with such groups. They are mm-hmm. very active on that front with regard to conservation, nurseries, and turtle rehabilitation. Mm-hmm. They have the only one in all of East Africa. Mm-hmm. It's in Watamu, Kenya.
All right. And sticking still at the coast, especially when it comes to the oceans, yeah. We usually have plastics there. We have the ecosystem around, especially some places in the coast, around the beach, yeah. are really not conducive, especially for the marine life. So when it comes to how that is supposed to be taken care of, how do you contribute to this?
Yeah, that's a very good question as well, Kevin. Like what we do as a travel company, again, the partner companies that work for the organizations, they're very much conscious of the environment. So like with Turtle Bay Watch, what we do is like we clean up the beach because plastic is a very, very big problem with regards to conservation rather. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. And now to a different issue, especially when it comes to some of the policies that are there when it comes to tourism, the tourism industry. Yeah. Is the industry really, or the Ministry of Tourism, focused on environmental conservation, or from where you sit? Because you've been doing this for a very long time now. How is the ministry coming in? Because we are talking about tourism, but also involving the conservation of the environment.
Okay, for real, I can say the tourism needs to do better. The Ministry of Tourism needs to do better. Mm-hmm. That's why, like for us as a travel company, we are taking the beacon and leading the line with regard to how other travel companies and in general the travel companies look at regenerative tourism. Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. And from different countries, yeah. especially our neighbors, mm-hmm. Is it a popular thing, regenerative kind of tourism? Because someone might say, okay, in Uganda, in Tanzania, in Rwanda, and then also other neighboring countries, when you look at what they do when it comes to regenerative kind of tourism, is there something that we can pick, or could they pick something from us?
I would say like we are basically leading the line, and they definitely have a lot to learn from us. Because like regenerative tourism in its own, it's a very new term. The most popular term is like sustainable tourism.
Okay.
Sustainable tourism is more about like minimizing the damage that comes from the tourism industry. Regenerative is like giving more than what we are taking. Yes. That's why I earlier mentioned like we are more of a extractive company. Sorry. Most travel companies are more extractive than regenerative. Yeah.
All right. And now, even as you say, the word is a bit new.
Yes.
Now, going forward, in terms of growth within this kind of tourism, what needs to be done? What are some of the gaps that you think needs to be filled in order for this particular kind of field to really grow? Because at the end of the day, we are talking about climate change, we're talking about the environmental degradation, and this is now a way of trying to also improve the environment. Therefore, going forward, what do you think can be done, and what can other travel companies do in order for them to include this kind of strategy in their plans?
I would say awareness. Then I would say awareness. Then for the third time, I would say awareness. After awareness, I would say follow it up with intent, then action. Because like I can tell you, like Africa accounts for like 2% of global air traffic. Like case in point, France receives 90 million visitors a year. Kenya receives 2 million visitors a year. So you can imagine what we receive, 90 million visitors divided by the 12 months of the year, that's like 7.5 million visitors a month. It would take like basically 4 years for Kenya to accommodate the same number of guests France does in a single month. Like, so if you look, our contribution to carbon, it's very low. But that doesn't mean that we should take a backseat. That's like in all of our itineraries again, we always include like marine conservation areas, marine national parks. And one of the reasons is because like mangroves are very effective at when it comes to sequestering carbon from the atmosphere. Yes. They are like to the magnitude of orders like 10, 20, 30 times, much better than rainforests. Yeah.
All right. And now, even as we speak about mangroves, the vegetation around the beach and the water bodies, the vegetation there, what needs to be done? Because most of the time you find that the vegetation there is just has overgrown, and you find it's not really a conducive place, especially when it comes to how the water bodies are supposed to be conserved. So therefore, what do you think needs to happen, especially when it comes to the vegetation that surrounds water bodies with the regenerative kind of tourism?
Like I can tell you, like Kenyans are very much ahead with regards to conservational tourism. Like there's a friend of mine, Adam Bowen, like whenever he goes fishing, he catches and releases. So it doesn't take, like he's keeping in line with like regenerative tourism. Others, the more we take and you're not giving back, we are actually hurting the ecosystem. Basically, as human beings, you are stewards, custodians of this environment. We are supposed to take care of it, not just to use it, because there's millions and millions of flora and fauna that also call this planet home. We can't just say like we are human beings, we'll dominate everything and use everything as we like. We are part of a greater ecosystem. And we actually need the environment more than the environment needs us as human beings.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, just hold it right there. We're going to go for a short break, but when we come back, we're going to just also include Nick in this particular conversation when it comes to how tourists are coming, but also being involved in activities that are improving the environment. So therefore, don't go too far. We'll be back with more.